Hello everyone, my name is Amber and today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read this summer. Basically, I decided that I'm not going to do an August wrap-up because I've only completed so far one book in August. I'm moving back into school in like a couple days, so I'm not really sure what other book I'm going to finish, but it's only really going to be 2 books and it's not going to be that interesting of a wrap-up. So instead of that, I'm just gonna go over all of the books that I read this summer so that there's a whole compromised basically list for you guys of a bunch of books. And my summer kind of takes place from the middle of May all the way to the end of August. So that's when all of these books are from. So this summer in total I've read 17 books, which is pretty good actually. I'm actually pretty proud of that. That was honestly the majority of my reading for the year was over the summer this year, so I'm really happy about that. I mean, we still have a couple months to go in the year, but that so far is kind of how it's looking. I read 0 1-star books, 0 2-star books, 2 3-star books, 11 4-star books, and 4 5-star books. But basically with the 4 stars, why there's so many is because some of them were like a 3.75 or a 3.5, but I just kind of rated them 4 stars on Goodreads. First book that I read this summer was You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. This book I gave 4.5 stars, I believe. It's a self-improvement book and it's about how to start kind of taking your life into your own hands and how to go after what you want with a positive attitude. It's all about like mindset, positivity, things like that, and that's something that I'm so into. So I really enjoyed this book. And if you guys know about the law of attraction, basically this book puts it in very tangible terms that are very easy to understand for someone that's not very familiar with the law of attraction, which I'm just starting to be familiar. I have been learning about it for about a year now, so I'm pretty familiar with it, but this book also did help me learn more about it that I didn't know. I saved so many quotes from this book. It's ridiculous. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't really in the mood for reading at that time, so reading a self-help, self-improvement book really helped me be more in the mood for reading. It was just very motivational and it was like the perfect read to kind of start off the summer because I feel like I kind of started it off at a good tone and I was able to kind of like finish off and carry out my whole summer with the same positive tone. The next book that I read was Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. It's kind of become like a tradition that every summer I read a Morgan Matson book, and this was my pick for this summer, and I really enjoyed this book. I thought that I wouldn't like it because it's like a sad Morgan Matson book, but she did it in a way where the book wasn't all about the sad event that is happening. It was about the main character and her growth as a character. So basically this follows our main character Taylor, and her family have always gone to this summer house on a lake every single year, but they haven't gone for the past few years. Her dad has developed cancer and they say that basically he has a couple months left to live, so this year they decide to go back to the house. And Taylor kind of reconnects with old friends, old enemies, and kind of has to explain what happened, why she left, and mend her friendships and relationships at the lake, and obviously spend time with her dad. I really loved the family aspect of this book, and I also really loved the friend aspect because they're all kind of childhood friends, so you see their history and things like that, and it does show you like scenes from the past of things that happened so you can kind of have your own perspective on it. But I just really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really well done. It definitely isn't my favorite Morgan Matson book, but I really did love it and I really enjoyed it, and I didn't think that I was going to because I'm really not drawn to sad books, but this one was really well done. So I very much enjoyed this, and it's obviously perfect summer read, like it has summer in the title. So the next one that I read was Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna Maguire. This is the second book to Every Heart a Doorway, which basically follows these kids, and they've all gone to places like Wonderland, stuff like that, like other worlds, and they've come back somehow and they don't want to be in our world, so they're at this kind of boarding school. But this one follows two of the characters before they go to that boarding school and what it was like in their world. And this world is very dark and vampiric, but it's just very atmospheric. The characters are just so easy to believe, and they're just very real and well developed, and I really enjoy this world and these characters. I gave this book, I think, a 4.5 stars. I don't really remember. The next book is Sadie by Courtney Summers. This book I listened to on audio. Basically, Sadie's sister was murdered, and Sadie is on a mission to find her killer, basically. The whole time we're trying to figure out who killed her sister and what this whole mystery is and what happened, and we're seeing the story through Sadie and through the guy who is making this podcast about them, because they're both kind of trying to unravel this mystery. This book is really good. It's very dark. There's a lot of things in it that are real and dark. Off the top of my head, there's like obviously murder, sexual abuse. It doesn't glorify it in any way. It doesn't spend a lot of time describing those things. It just mentions them and talks about them. From what I remember, it does it in a really good way. It definitely is a really good gripping read, and it's definitely a mystery, and the audiobook is full cast, so it's very well done, and it really takes you in to the world. So I definitely would recommend the audiobook, but that one I think I gave it 4 stars. Again, I'm trying to remember what I'm giving these books, but I forget. The next book that I read was Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This book is set in a boarding school in Vermont, and it follows our main character Stevie as she is going off to her first year there. And basically this boarding school was started in the 30s, and the man that started it, his wife and daughter were kidnapped and allegedly murdered. Stevie's going to the school because she really likes solving mysteries, and she wants to solve the mystery of what happened. There were parts that were slightly slow, but I did really enjoy, especially the setting of this book. I really liked. Some of the characters were definitely a little bit difficult for me to connect to. I do find myself really wanting to see what happens and read the next book, and maybe I'll feel a bit more connected to the characters in the second book, but the setting was the best part of this book. I love the setting of it. You can totally feel yourself there, and it's just it's just so good. So definitely pick this up if you haven't already. I definitely would recommend it. But I did hear if this one was iffy, you would love the second one. And if you really loved this one, the second one is like meh. The next book that I read was The Bone Witch by Rin Shapeko. This book is basically about this girl that lives in this world where there are all these different types of witches, and they all have like a heart's glass is what they call it, and it kind of changes color depending on what type of witch you are. Her siblings are all of these like elemental witches, like water and things like that, and like healing, and that's what she wants to be, but she finds out that she is a bone witch when she accidentally raises her dead brother from his grave. And then the story just takes off from there. It's very good. It's kind of slow again at some parts, but the atmosphere and the world building is so just enticing, and it really draws you in. And I really enjoyed that part of the book. I did get confused with some of the characters because some of the names I feel like got me messed up. But I loved our main character, and I really love how this book ended, and I want to see how the next book plays out. But what I really loved about this book the most was the fact that it bounced back and forth between present day, where everything has already happened and our main character is relaying it. So we kind of know snippets of where the story goes. It also follows the story as it's happening as well. So that I really loved about this particular book. But definitely pick it up if you're into fantasy, if you're into witches, and really cool world building. The next one that I read is one of my favorites of the summer, if not my favorite book I read this summer, and that is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. Obviously I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This follows our two main characters, Citra and Rowan, and they are apprentices to become a scythe basically, and a scythe is someone who has been selected to glean people or kill people basically, because death has been eradicated in this world and people don't die naturally anymore, so people have to keep the population down and go around and kill them. This was completely different than I thought it would be. It's very political and philosophical and very, very good. And I feel like I've already summarized this book so many times in all of the recent videos that I've filmed. So just go pick it up. You will love it. I really, really, really love this book. The next book is one that I started a while ago during my spring semester and I just never got around to finishing it, but I finally just read the last like 100 pages, which honestly was the best part of this book, and that is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I have an unpopular opinion about this book, and that is that like it's not my favorite thing I've ever read. I'm really, really sorry. I feel so bad saying that because I know a lot of people really like it, but it's just like, it's okay. Like, I don't really like it that much. I gave this 4 stars, but I'd honestly probably put it down to like 3.5. It's basically about this girl and her 2 sisters, and they were taken away to fairy. The main character is human, so she kind of has to learn what it's like to live in a fairy world with like manipulative, mean fairy. It's supposed to be a hate to love romance, and I don't like the romance. I'm not feeling it because the guy character that everyone says that she gets together with is just so unforgivably mean. And just the hate to love romances that I like, there's always like a reason behind it, but the reason is a selfless reason, and it's about the other character. It's about the girl that the guy's being mean to. It's like him protecting her or something like that. But the reason that was given in this so far is not a good excuse or reason. But I mean, it is well written and everything. I just don't, it's not like something that I connect to a lot, I guess, as much as other writing styles that I've read. But I mean, definitely give it a go. A lot of people really love it, but it just wasn't my thing, and I wish it was, but it just isn't. The next one that I read was Seafire by Natalie C. Parker. This basically follows an all-female crew. I enjoyed it, but I only felt connected to a couple of the characters, which I was kind of upset about. And one of them was like the enemy people. But I really liked the fact that this was on the ocean and it was pirates, but then also had some technology in it, which confused me and threw me off a bit because it wasn't really described like that. Like, nothing ever about this made it seem like there was going to be any technology in it, and I was kind of just looking for like a pure fantasy book with nothing like too modern or anything, and it wasn't like super advanced technology, but it was still technology that I wasn't expecting, so that kind of threw me off. I gave this a 3-star. I did enjoy it. I do still think people would really, really enjoy this. It just wasn't really my cup of tea, but I am glad that I read it. The next book that I read was Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. This is the second one to Scythe. I gave this 5 stars once again. I can't really go into it because it's a sequel, but read this series is all I have to say. I just love where the characters went in this book. I love the new character that came in, and I'm very attached to everybody, and I'm stressed about the 3rd and final book coming out because I need to know, but I'm also very scared because I kind of have a guess of what's going to happen, and I'm terrified. But anyway, just read this series. It's really good. We are getting into the reading rush time, where I read 7 books in 7 days. How did I do that? I really don't know. The first book that I read was Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the second book to Illuminate, which is basically like a space themed book, but it's all told in like different formats and stuff, and it's really, really cool. This one follows different characters, but the old characters are still a part of it, but I really, really enjoyed the new characters as well, and I just really enjoyed this book. I read it in 1 day. The audiobook is really good because it's also a full cast audiobook, but definitely I would recommend this series, even if you're not into sci-fi, because I'm not really that much, but just the characters are really awesome, and the full cast and just the format is really, really cool. So I would definitely recommend this series. I think I gave this a 4-star. The next book that I read was To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This one I read on audiobook, and I kind of bounced back and forth between the physical book, and I was not expecting to like or enjoy this quite as much as I actually did, and I loved it. I really enjoy Lara Jean, and I just enjoy her story. And I don't know if you guys know what this is about, but there's a movie about it and everything. But basically, she's written love letters to every boy that she's ever had a crush on, and they all get sent out. And that is where the story takes off. But I just really enjoyed this. I loved her family. She lives with her dad and her sisters, and it really reminded me of my family. I live with my dad and my sisters, so like it just really, I don't know, I related to it, and I think that there was a lot of parts that I deeply related to that I really wasn't expecting to relate to, and I just loved her as a character, and I loved the story, and it's very true to like the high school experience and stuff like that, and I just really loved this, and it's so cute. If you're looking for like an adorable contemporary, read this because it's so cute. The next book that I read was P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han, which is the second book in this series. I'm not going to say any more about it, but I think I gave it 4 stars. I like this one a little bit less than the first one, but I still really enjoyed it. The next book that I read was Choose Wonder Over Worry by Amber Ray. This is another self-improvement book. This basically is about how to not worry, basically, and how to get rid of like negative emotions. And I gave this about 3.75 stars. I didn't like this as much as I thought that I would, but I still did get some things out of it, which I have tabbed. I think that this is definitely a good self-improvement book, but it's not my favorite one that I've ever read, but definitely there's things to get out of it. I just didn't get out of it what I was hoping to get out of it. And I also, in like defense, read this in like a day, so it might have affected me more if I spread it out over a while of a time period, but maybe because I read it in a day, it didn't really resonate as much. The next book that I read was The Wicked King, also by Holly Black. I listened to this on audio, and I bounced back and forth with my library copy of it. This book is obviously the second book to The Cruel Prince. I felt very similarly about this than I did to The Cruel Prince. I don't know, looking back on it, if I liked this more or the same or less than the first one. I really am very confused about my thoughts on this series, and I'm not too sure I'm going to continue in it. It's just not my thing. It's not my favorite series I've ever read. I have other fairy books that I really enjoy a lot more, so I don't know. I'm just disappointed by it, and I really wish I liked it a lot more than I do, but I just don't. I gave this like a 3.75, I think. Next one that I read for the reading rush is Daughter of the Siren Queen by Trisha Levenseller. This is the second and final book in the Daughter of the Pirate King duology, which I really enjoy. I really love these books. The first one follows Alosa, and so does the second one, but the first one, basically, she is the daughter of the Pirate King, and he puts her on a mission to basically get fake kidnapped by this ship to steal this piece of a map that will help them basically get led to a treasure. So it follows her doing that throughout the book, but she is kind of described as a female Jack Sparrow, and she is on a crew, I think, of mostly girls, and there are some guys on it, but it's mostly girls. The romance in this is so good. The magic, the little bit of magic that's in this series is really good. Just, it's good. It's so good. I really like it, and I feel like it's underrated. It's one of those fun fantasy series. Like, it's not too serious, but it is still dramatic and really enjoyable. So this is one that I really enjoyed a lot. So the next book that I read was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Obviously, I don't really need to describe this book, but I really enjoyed it. I obviously gave it 5 stars. I haven't reread this book ever, and I think the first time I ever read it, I was in like 6th or 7th grade. But I mean, the first time I ever attempted to read it, I was in like 4th grade, but then the first time I read it all the way through was 7th grade, I think, or 6th grade. So I just really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed my reread experience and connecting to the characters again, and it's always just so warm and fuzzy, and I just love Harry Potter. And also, I always come across things that I didn't remember were in the book, so it's always a new experience every single time. I have nothing but good things to say. So that was how I ended the reading rush. And then since the reading rush, I've been kind of slacking on reading. I think I kind of burnt myself out a little bit. So then after the reading rush, I finally finished Always and Forever Lara Jean by Jenny Han, which took me forever to read, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than the second one, I think. I gave this one 4 stars out of 5, I want to say, but this one I just really enjoyed. I love our main character. This is just like kind of her road to college, basically, and college struggles, and I feel like this book really described it in a really relatable way, and this is how it was, like picking out college stuff, and I even still related to some of the stuff in this book now. So if you're interested in this series at all, go pick it up because it's super fluffy and really adorable. So those are all the books that I actually completed during the summer. Obviously I'm reading another book now, but I'm not going to talk about that, I guess, until my September wrap-up. Sorry of the lack of an August wrap-up this month. I just didn't want to do a wrap-up if there was only going to be like one book in it. So we have this instead. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know down below what you guys read this summer and what your favorite book was. Mine was probably Scythe. I really enjoyed it. And also To All the Boys I've Loved Before. It was just so good and so cute and you can't not love it. Definitely make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe down below if you want to see more of my videos, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!
Words that I say, downtown the lights out, but we choose to stay. I don't know where this may go. These strangers know all